Oh, yeah, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, in this episode 3862 BN. Today's date is March 17th, 2026, and the title of the episode is, How About a Nice Game of Chess? What you're witnessing is a global realignment. Hey, you know what's interesting? We've all seen the headlines about those miracle weight loss shots, but the 2026 data is officially in, and it's a wake-up call. A major analysis revealed that once people stop the injections, they regain an average of 60% of their weight within a year. Even worse, most of the gain is pure fat, but the muscle they lost stays gone, leaving them with a crashed metabolism and a body that's functionally older than when they started. That's why I'm obsessed with today's sponsor, GLP-1 Elevate. Instead of using needles to override my system, it uses clinically studied plant-based ingredients like metabolate to help my body naturally boost its own hunger control signals. I get the same fullness and fewer cravings, but without the scary side effects or the metabolic rebound. It supports my goals while protecting my muscles so I can actually keep the results for good. To celebrate Valentine's Day, get 50% off GLP-1 Elevate at trimwithx22.com. Every order includes a complete support bundle with a free VIP coaching for life, a 60-day money-back guarantee, and free express shipping on subscriptions. Head over to trimwithx22.com now to claim your 50% discount before it expires, or just click the link in the description. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, you can see that every step of the way they are making moves, and Trump is actually pushing them in the direction he wants them to go. And really think about it. This is basically a game of chess. And actually, Trump has actually said that he is playing chess with the deep state players. Some of them are very smart. Some of them are very violent. Some are nice and violent. But he's playing chess with these people. And when you play chess with someone, you maneuver in a way to make them move in the direction you want them to go, while in the background, you're actually setting them up to take their king. And this is exactly what Trump is doing right now. He's playing the chess game. And when he moves his pieces, it might seem a little strange, just like when you're watching a chess match, or if you're in a chess match, and you say, why would he move his pawn there? Why did he move his knight over there? That makes no sense. And all of a sudden you see, whoa, look what he did. He just trapped him in that move. Now he has the ability to go after and check the king or checkmate the king. Trump is doing the same exact thing. What you're actually witnessing right now is the global realignment of the entire world. Remember, the deep state players, they set up this world over a long period of time. They set it up in this country. They infiltrated this country. They set it up on the Western Hemisphere. They set it up in the Middle East. They set it up in Europe. They set it up across the entire world. Trump now is playing chess with them, and every time he makes a move, he is basically removing the pieces from the board. So yes, the pawns, the knights, the rooks, that's what he's doing right now. He's removing the pieces and realigning the world to benefit the people of this country and the people of the world. And he's removing the power from the deep state players. Now, for a lot of people, what did they want? They just wanted arrest. They just wanted Epstein to be brought out into the open. Yes, those are all good things. Absolutely. But let's use this scenario. Trump didn't go to Iran. He didn't carry out the mission there. He didn't go to Venezuela. He didn't set up the Shield of Americas. He didn't do any of these things. All he did was arrest Obama, arrest Hillary Clinton, and actually showed everyone who's a pedophile. All the people that went to Epstein Island. Now, you know that the deep state players, those in very high, powerful positions, a lot of those people most likely didn't go there. Yes, the lower level, to blackmail them, they did, because remember how the system works. You need money to run the system, so you launder from the Federal Reserve, and you launder it into Congress, then through NGOs, then to the states, and to Somalis, or whoever else. Remember, there's always frontmen. And then you have to gain control over the politicians. Yes, you can use money to blackmail them, or you can use their fetishes to actually control them, to say, listen, you must do what I say, or I'm going to expose you. So let's just say We arrested and we brought everyone to justice that you wanted all these people to be brought to justice. Hillary's behind bars, Obama's behind bars, Brennan, Clapper, all the people that are really not in government anymore, not doing. Comey's behind bars, Fauci's behind bars. Everyone's behind bars. And the CEOs, Hollywood, that's all dismantled. But everything else was intact. The Federal Reserve is not removed. The countries around the world, they're still intact with their leaders. Iran is not gone. Means they're still funding Hamas, Hezbollah. Venezuela is not gone. That means they're still trafficking drugs, human trafficking, child trafficking. Because remember, just because Epstein Island is shut down doesn't mean the whole thing's shut down. But again, the Federal Reserve isn't shut down, so they still have the flow of money. And Trump, he wrote executive orders. They codified some of the executive orders. But again, we didn't win the midterms. So now the D's, they're in control of the midterms, and they're trying to impeach Trump. And we didn't remove the deep state's army across the world. All we did was arrest people. Sounds great. Sounds fantastic. But again, what do you think happens with the system? The money's still flowing. The terrorists are still there on the Western Hemisphere, the Eastern Hemisphere. Those behind the curtain, they're still in power. You might have gotten a couple of them, but they're still in power. They're still being funded. So basically, they just hired more people, blackmailed more people. We never basically exposed the rigged election. So basically, the Save America Act was never passed because we don't have Congress. And yes, Trump, during this period of time, the 4 years, he lowered fuel prices. Inflation is steady. People are happy. It feels good, just like the first term. But what has really changed? Think about that for a second. What has really changed? I mean, we're talking about taking back this country. This is not another 4-year election. If we're going to remove the deep state players, if we're going to take back the country, then we must do it completely, which means we might have to get our hands dirty, which means we might have to go into other countries and remove the deep state actors. We might have to go in and remove the cartel members or the people that control the cartel members. We might have to make deals with countries and set up the Shield of Americas. And we might have to coordinate with them to remove the terrorists. This is what Trump is doing right now. This is what he's doing across the world. So is this necessary? Absolutely. Is this the endless wars that the deep state players have started a long time ago? No, it isn't. He's actually ending everything that they did. They're the ones who created the drug trade. They're the ones who traded the human trafficking trade. They're the ones who put Iran in power in the Middle East. They're the ones who created Venezuela. They're the ones who are trying to bring in socialism. They're the ones who coordinated with the installed leaders to bring the Muslims into their countries and into this country. Trump is undoing all of this. He's ending the endless. That's what this means. And yes, he let everyone know he's playing chess. And they make a move, he makes a move. He tries to bring them to where he wants them to go. He's trapping them every step of the way. It might not seem normal. It might seem like he's doing nothing. It might seem that's a ridiculous move, but it's done on purpose. Because again, if you go straight at these people, what do you think they were going to do? If we went straight at these people, they would actually probably launch a nuclear war. They would use a dirty nuke. They would do something to harm us. Now think about what Trump did in the very, very beginning. He said, okay, I'm going to deport the illegals. So did he go after every single person in this country? No, he went after the worst of the worst. Ask yourself a simple question. Why? Why did he do that? Why did he go after the gang members? Why did he go after the terrorists? Why did he go after the crazy Islamists? Why did he go after all of these people? Because if he was going to carry out the mission in Iran and in Venezuela, he needed to make sure that he rounded up as many of these people as possibly could to make sure that they didn't do us harm. Think about the other countries now. Think about France. Think about Germany. Think about England. Think about all of those countries, are they panicking right now? Because think about it. They have a very big Muslim population. They brought in rapists. They brought in terrorists. They brought in criminals. So if they join in and they assist Trump, do they have a problem in their country? Yes, internally. Think about that for a second. Plus, it's not part of their agenda to go into Iran. Remember, if they were all on board bringing these Muslims into this country, do you really think it's part of their agenda to shut down Iran? Think about it. Biden was bringing in the Muslims, bringing in the criminals, the terrorists, the gang members. Was it part of his agenda and Obama's agenda, because he was being in the background? Was it part of their agenda to go in and get Maduro? Was it part of their agenda to stop the drug and human trafficking trade if they're bringing everyone over the border and actually taking the children and, sending them to labor camps, to sex dungeons and things like that? Was it part of his agenda? Was it part of his agenda to go into Iran and set the people of Iran free and stop Iran from creating the terrorist organizations, the foot soldiers out in the Middle East? Was it part of their agenda or anyone else's agenda? No, it was not. It's part of Trump's agenda to take back control of everything. That's why the other countries reject. That's why the other countries say, we're not assisting. That's why there's pushback. And Trump is showing the world, look, NATO, our NATO allies, they will never assist in this. Now, I'm not talking about the people of the country. We're talking about the installed leaders. He's actually putting a spotlight on all of them right now. Remember, Ukraine is not part of NATO. The United States is part of NATO. Iran actually is bombing the embassies of the countries. Think about it. You think Iran wants them to do something so this way they can call jihad in their countries? Think about this for a second. Think about what's happening. So Ukraine is not part of NATO, but NATO, the European nations, are in line with Ukraine. The United States is part of NATO, and we're going to war, or we're on a mission or an excursion, like Trump says, and we're removing and eradicating the terrorist regime. And NATO, the NATO countries, don't want to assist. Trump is not saying, listen, I want you to fly the bombers in there. I want you to fly the ships in there to bomb. No, he's saying, listen, protect the oil tankers. Escort them out while we have our minesweepers. So this way, it relieves us of some of the things that we have to do here. So we just want protection right now so we can keep oil flowing. Think about this. Think about what's really happening. So Trump, he's letting everyone know he's playing this chess game, and a chess game is never straightforward. There's moves and counter moves. You're throwing off your opponent. You're making them think you're doing something. In the meantime, you're doing something else to actually trap them. And yes, it's strategic moves. And that is what we're witnessing right now. So all these people that are complaining, all the people that are whining, and everyone's saying, oh, you know what, the MAGA movement. Oh, you know what, I can't stand all of this anymore. Really, let's just think about this for a second. Can you imagine if Trump goes, you know what, I can't take it anymore. I can't take the fake news, continually putting out fake stories about me. I can't take it anymore because they're trying to assassinate me. Oh, look, I can't take it anymore because they keep removing my acting attorney generals or my acting U.S. attorneys. Oh, I can't take it anymore because every time I try to deport the illegals, they're telling me I can't. Oh, look, I want to investigate the Federal Reserve. They're telling me I can't. Oh, I can't take it anymore. So I should just quit as president and I should just stop this. Is that really how we fight a war against the deep state players? So the digital soldiers, do digital soldiers just stop because they feel like things aren't going their way? No, digital soldiers move forward. Digital soldiers keep fighting. What are we fighting for? Are we fighting to be right? Are we fighting to make sure that we get the most clicks? Are we fighting, or have we all started the fight to take back the country? Nobody said it was going to be over in a day. Nobody said it was going to be over in a week. Nobody ever said it was going to be over in 4 years, 8 years. Well, actually, we were told about, 8, 10 years. But again, we're fighting this enemy. We're in the home stretch right now. Trump is hunting them. He is the hunter. They are the hunted. And yes, you might not like it. You might not have thought that, hey, we were going to go this far, but we had to. We had to go this far to take down the enemy across the world. You might not like war. War is dirty. War is terrible. But if we're going to do something and we're going to remove the terrorist organization that has been creating Hamas, creating Hezbollah, assisting ISIS, and we're going to remove the cartels and the gang members and the human traffickers, the drug traffickers, yes, we still have to fight because the fight is not over. And yes, you're going to see people that you followed, the people that you thought, oh, we're on your side. I mean, think about the Revolutionary War. We had General Washington, and then there was Benedict Arnold. George Washington trusted him. Never thought he would turn on him. Never thought that, wait a minute, you're a traitor? Actually, throughout the Revolutionary War, there were a lot of traitors. A lot of people that you thought, wait a minute, I thought you were on our side. You turned out to be a traitor. But think about it. The traitors' names, they've lived on through history. Everyone knows Benedict Arnold in this country. Everyone knows that Benedict Arnold, he basically betrayed this country. And again, you're going to see this throughout war. You're going to see some people that are going to turn out to actually work with the other side. You're going to see people that you thought were on your side. Trump's seeing it every day. Look what just happened right now. He had someone in his administration. I mean, this happened multiple times, but the latest one, Kent, turns out, hey, look, he's another fake. Looks like they activated him. He was a sleeper. And yes, we're going to see this every step of the way because we are in war. We're still fighting the enemy, and the enemy is still trying to win. The enemy is still trying to fight back. And what way do you fight back? You try to turn people. You turn people with money. You turn people with promises, maybe with blackmail. They did it in Congress. They did it throughout the states with the mayors, the governors. You don't think they could do it with influencers? I mean, really think about this. Think about what you're witnessing right now. And this is why we have to continue to fight. The mission has not changed. The mission is the same, to take back the country, to remove the deep state players, take control of the executive branch, take control of the House and the Senate, remove the installed people, get the election system that works for the people, remove the Federal Reserve, remove the open-ended credit card, remove the deep state players across the world, one way or another, have peace on earth, take back control completely. They've had control for what? 50, 60, 70, 80 years? Now it's time to take it away from them. That's what this has always been about. And this is what we've always been fighting for. Everything else is meaningless. Trump is doing what we put him in there to do. Maybe he's not following your expectations, but he has the insider information. He knows the classified information. He sees the board. He knows a lot more than everybody else. And when he calls people out on certain things, you don't think he knows? Of course he does. And once again, you can see this is what Trump is doing. He's basically realigning the entire world. He's taking it away from the old guard. Their days are done. And he's playing the greatest game of chess of his lifetime. That is what you're seeing right now, every step of the way. And every step of the way, it's not perfect. I mean, look what a chess game, when you're playing chess, you put a pawn up there. Oh, look, a knight took a pawn. You put your rook up there. Oh, look, another piece, a bishop takes that piece. Yes, that's what you're seeing on the board right now. But in the end, Trump is playing to win. Trump is playing to capture the king. And that is what he's going to do. We'll be talking a lot more about this a little bit later. But first, let's talk about Greg Bovino. And it looks like Greg Bovino, he has now announced that he's going to retire at the end of the month. And basically, he's worked for the Border Patrol for something like 30 years. And we could see that Governor J.B. Pritzker is now threatening him. And this is what he wrote. Greg Bovino won't just walk away. He'll be held accountable and responsible for the damage he's done to our nation. We won't forget, and neither should you. No one is above the law. You mean he's following out his duties to deport those people that came into this country illegally? And let's see, J.B. Pritzker and many others are trying to keep the illegals in this country, paying them to stay in this country, even though they broke a law. They broke a law coming into this country, so they created a sanctuary state, sanctuary city, so those people who broke the law could be safe. Think about it for a second. Infantry Dort says, what you're describing is insane behavior. The rule of law isn't supposed to shift with elections. It's supposed to be a constant. What you're talking about is using elections as revenge, and that is sinister. It absolutely is. Now, do you really think that they're going to go after Bovino now? Because they're not in the winning seat right now. And they never will be again. And you can see that Trump and his team, what are they doing? They're removing the CDL license from all those people that got them illegally. And there are certain things that he can do right away where he can remove them, and other ones he has to wait for the license to expire. But Nick Sorter, he put this out and said, the Trump admin has begun canceling 200,000 commercial driver's licenses for foreign truck drivers. Many American lives will be saved by this move. Asylum seekers, refugees, and other foreigners are now barred from receiving CDLs. So the licenses do not get canceled right away. They must expire first, and then they cannot be renewed. The Trump administration new FMCSA rule, effective March 16, 2026, bars asylum seekers, refugees, DACA recipients, TPS holders, and other immigrants with temporary work authorization from getting or renewing commercial driver's licenses. This affects an estimated approximately 200,000 immigrant truck drivers nationwide. Existing valid CDLs stay fully usable until their natural expiration date, which could be up to 5 years in some cases. There are a few exceptions. In states like California, the feds have ordered the immediate cancellation of approximately 13 to 17,000 specific CDLs that were improperly issued, where the license expiration already outlasted the driver's legal presence authorization. Those are being pulled now because they were never compliant. But the big 200,000 figure in the post refers to the much larger group whose licenses are still valid and will simply lapse when they expire, and they will not be able to renew them. So yes, all those people that got them illegally, they will be removed right now, and soon the others, they will not be able to get them, and they'll have to follow the new rules to reapply, or maybe they never can reapply. But again, all these licenses are now being removed one by one. And actually, you have to remember, they use this to allow them to vote in the elections and to keep the wages way, way down, to keep their system going. And as these individuals had these positions, Americans weren't taking these positions because the wages were very, very low. Now, why did they do this? Because again, when you're in a central bank system, what happens? You need to bring in cheaper and cheaper labor to keep the system operational. That's why they outsourced manufacturing to other countries, because you kept all the manufacturers in this country. As the value of the currency declined over time, because remember, inflation is cumulative, everything would become very, very expensive. So they had to ship all the manufacturing jobs overseas. Those jobs that could not be shipped overseas, you had to bring cheaper labor into this country. And yes, there's many different agendas with the cheaper labor, because also they could use them to vote. They can also use them to make sure that they have a lot of seats in the House And this is what they have done. But if you look at Poland right now, Poland, they have one of the strongest economies right now. And basically, they just edged past Switzerland to become the world's 20th largest with over 1 trillion in annual output. And why are they a very strong economy? And why do they have a economy that really produces? Because they've been very, very strict on immigration policies. So think about all the countries that have not, and think about the countries that have been. Hungary has been very, very strict on their immigration policies. This is why they're trying to oust Viktor Orban. But once again, you can see that the patriots, they're putting up a fight against the deep state players. And yes, the EU is part of the deep state system. Now, the other thing that we could see is that the deep state players in this country, they are now going after the Doge kids. And they're trying to make an example of them that don't ever try to figure out how our criminal syndicate system works. And this is why they're being deposed. Hans put this out and said, I finally got around to watching hours of depositions of the Doge kids that the leftist groups forced on them purely to harass them, saddle them with huge legal expenses, and, more importantly, discourage anyone else from ever volunteering for their heroic effort. This is what is known as lawfare. Legal processes are abused to make people's lives miserable, not because they did anything wrong, but because others disagree with them on policy. Those disputes should be fought entirely in the political arena, but the left does not fight by Marquis of Queensberry rules. They do whatever works. In this case, it is even worse because these Doge kids are not political actors and certainly not MAGA activists. They were literally there to perform a narrow technical task, identify wasteful and DEI grants in order to save government spending. They're not even decision makers. They're essentially clerks who flag questionable grants and compile lists, after which political appointees decide what to do. One of these kids even testified that he had donated to Obama, but that did not matter to the mob. The whole exercise was completely beyond the pale and totally devoid of substance or justification. The lawyers pushing this spectacle failed to identify a single serious problem. By the end, they were so desperate that they started questioning the witnesses about one ridiculously wasteful grant that apparently slipped through the cracks. In other words, they ended up arguing the opposite of their own case, effectively conceding that Doge had been doing a great job while desperately clinging to the idea that it had not achieved total perfection. But of course, that was never the point. The objective was intimidation. The kids were harassed. Others watching will think twice before stepping forward, and the government grift machine will roll on. And this is why Elon is stepping in and helping them with this. So this way, they're not bankrupt. And we need to show the deep state players, yeah, you can try this. You could try to push these people around, but it's not going to work. And this is what it means by fighting a war. And these people are going to continue to fight. They're on the front lines. They're looking at the deep state criminal syndicate system, and they're discovering how it actually works. And yes, Doge is still operational. Yes, it's decentralized in all the different agencies. And yes, they are hunting down how the system works, where the money is dispersed, how many NGOs it goes to. This is what they've been tasked to do. And this is why they're trying to stop them every step of the way. And like we said in the very beginning, Joe Kent, he decided to resign as the director of the National Counterterrorism Center in protest over the Iran war. He says, I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to the pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Now, any person that thinks that Trump is controlled by Israel is absolutely ridiculous. Trump, again, is his own man. He's been tasked to take back this country, and he uses people, he uses countries to help him do it. And once again, was this person active? Now, first of all, his wife, she works for Lib Max Blumenthal on the Gray Zone outlet. She's been rage posting about Trump for a little while now. And basically, all of a sudden, during this period of time, he decides to call it quits. And what's very interesting is that Carolyn Levitt is actually calling him out on all of this. There are many false claims in this letter, but let me address one specifically, that Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. This is the same false claim that Democrats and some in the liberal media have been repeating over and over and over. As President Trump has clearly and explicitly stated, he had strong and compelling evidence that Iran was going to attack the United States first. This evidence was compiled from many sources and factors. President Trump would never make the decision to deploy military assets against a foreign adversary in a vacuum. Iran is the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. The Iranian regime is evil. It proudly killed Americans, waged war against our country, and openly threatened us all the way up to the launch of Operation Epic Fury. Iran was aggressively expanding their short-range ballistic missiles to combine with their naval assets to give themselves immunity, meaning they would have a degree of capabilities that would give them immunity to hold us and the rest of the world hostage. The regime aimed to use those ballistic missiles as a shield to continue achieving their ultimate goal, nuclear weapons. The president, through his top negotiators, gave the regime every single possible opportunity to abandon this unacceptable course by permanently giving up their nuclear ambitions in exchange for sanctions relief, free nuclear fuel, and potential economic partnership with our country. But they would not say yes to peace because obtaining nuclear weapons was their fundamental goal. Trump ultimately made the determination that a joint attack with Israel would greatly reduce the risk to American lives that would come from a first strike by the terrorist Iranian regime and address the imminent threat to America's national security interest. All of this led to Trump arriving at the determination that this military operation was necessary for U.S. national security, which is why he launched the massively successful Operation Epic Fury. The commander-in-chief determines what does and does not constitute a threat because he is the one constitutionally empowered to do so, and because the American people went to the ballot box and entrusted him and him alone to make such final judgments. And finally, the absurd allegation that President Trump made his decision based on influences of others, even foreign countries, is both insulting and laughable. Trump has been remarkably consistent, and he has said for decades that Iran could never possess a nuclear weapon. As someone who actually witnesses President Trump's decision-making process on a daily basis, I can attest to the fact that he is always looking to do what's in the best interest of the United States of America, period. America first. And think about it. If you go back in time, and we read his tweets before, he's always said the same exact thing. He would go into Iran, he would obliterate it. Now, he gave them the chance. He always gives the deep state players a chance. He always discusses it with them. He always has negotiations. He will give them whatever they need. You know what's interesting? The next pandemic, according to the experts, isn't a virus. It's an antimicrobial resistance, or when antibiotics no longer work. But here's what they're not talking about. The real damage isn't just resistant bacteria. It's what decades of antibiotic overuse does to your gut. Antibiotics don't just kill the bad bacteria. They wipe out the good ones too. When your gut microbiome gets thrown off, everything starts to break down. Immune function, metabolism, inflammation control, even brain health. And the most powerful way to rebuild that kind of microbial diversity is through a century-old fermented food, kimchi. Kimchi contains over 900 unique strains of beneficial probiotics that are naturally antimicrobial, which means it's antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, and antiparasitic, because it's not about killing everything, it's about restoring balance. That's exactly why Brightcore created Kimchi One. It delivers the full microbial ecosystem of fresh kimchi in convenient daily capsules, cold processed dried to deliver all the nutrition of natural fermented kimchi. If you want to strengthen your gut, support your immune system, and rebuild microbial diversity right away. Today, you can get an exclusive offer by clicking the link below for 25% off your entire order. Or for an even better deal, call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off your order and free shipping. Give them a call now at 888-959-5248 or go to brightcore.com/X22 or click the link in the description. In return, they have to give him something back because that's how negotiations work. Now, of course, the deep state players, it's always a one-sided negotiation. And Trump, again, he has the classified information. He knows what they're up to. Obama is in line with them. Why do you think he gave them pallets of cash? Why do you think he smuggled uranium into Iran? What do you think they've been doing with all of this? Think about it for a second. And think about what Trump is doing right now. Trump now is shutting down the entire deep state apparatus. Plus, Iran tried to have him killed. Remember this post from Trump? Big threats on my life by Iran. The entire U.S. military is watching and waiting. Moves were already made by Iran that didn't work out. But they will try again. Not a good situation for anyone. I'm surrounded by more men, guns, and weapons than I've ever seen before. Thank you to Congress for unanimously approving far more money to Secret Service. No votes, strictly bipartisan. Nice to see Republicans and Democrats get together on something. An attack on a former president is a death wish for the attacker. Now, this was September 25th, 2024. This is before the elections. Now, what's very interesting is that Joe Kent responded to him and said, Iran has been after Trump since January of 2020, after he ordered the targeting killing of the terrorist Qasem Soleimani. This isn't a new threat. The Secret Service consistently failing to secure Trump is new. We need to figure out exactly why these failures keep happening. So, that's interesting. So there was a threat on Trump. There is a threat to this country because if they're going to kill the president of the United States, it's a threat to this country. So his argument does not make any sense whatsoever. Or was he a sleeper? Was he leaking information? Was he activated? Taylor Bodowich put this out and said, Joe Kent is a crazed egomaniac who was often at the center of national security leaks, while rarely, never, producing any actual work. He spent all of his time working to subvert the chain of command and undermine the president of the United States. This isn't some principled resignation. He just wanted to make a splash before getting canned. What a loser. So it looks like Trump and team, they knew that he was going to do something and they saw what he was doing and they decided, you know what, we got to let this guy go. So was he activated to put this out there before it happened? Absolutely. I do believe so. Trump responded to this and said, Trump says it's a good thing that Joe Kent resigned over the Iran war. When somebody is working, he says, with us that says they didn't think Iran was a threat, we don't want those people. And he's absolutely right. And once again, you could see that Trump right now, what is he doing? He's pretty much realigning the entire globe. And what's very interesting, we could see the CIA, the deep state players, the former Pentagon people, they're trying to put out as many fake stories as possible, trying to convince everyone that Trump has no idea what he's doing. Trump had no idea they'd use drones. Trump had no idea that they had missiles. Trump had no idea they were able to move the missiles. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous. But on 60 Minutes, we had an individual, Mara Carlin, trying to convince everyone that Trump was caught off guard by drones hitting soft targets. Think about that for a second. Now, remember, the individual who's running all of this, Admiral Cooper, the guy that's running the Iran war, he actually let everyone know 2 years ago that Iran would use drones. John Conrad put this out and said, meet Admiral Cooper, the guy running the Iran war. Former CEO of the Navy's first drone and AI task force, the commander of Red Sea Ops, where drones attacked 170 soft targets. How do I know? Because I watched him say it on 60 Minutes 2 years ago before you buffoons. So this guy knows about drones. He knows exactly what was going to happen. You don't think Trump looked at all the classified information, had everything monitored, had surveillance on Iran, and understood exactly what their capabilities were? Absolutely. He knew. And think about it. Before him, were there other presidents and other individuals supplying Iran with the equipment that they needed? Yes. Did Trump have access to that information? Yes. So he knows. He knows exactly what they're doing. Don't be fooled by Trump sitting there pretending he knows nothing. Remember, optics is very, very important. This is how you keep your enemy off guard. And every time these individuals try to put out these fake news stories, it boomerangs on them every single time. And now we've come to learn that Iran cannot produce a single additional ballistic missile, a stunning achievement before the war. Iran was producing up to 100 missiles a month and increasing. That pipeline is shut down. Important that Iran not be allowed to rebuild. So right now, Iran is having a big, big problem. They can't produce the missiles. So basically, they're caught in this weird place right now. Do you keep the missiles or do you fire the rest that you have? We'll be talking about that in just a sec. But Trump, he said the following, and this comes from Trump War Room. He says, we get less than 1% of oil from the Strait, and some countries get more. Japan gets 95%. China gets 90%. Many of the Europeans get quite a bit, and South Korea get 35%. So we want them to come and help us in the Strait of Hormuz. Now think about it. He's exposing the deep state players right here. Now, China does get a lot of the oil from Iran. China is financing the Iranian regime through a variety of means, including a shadow banking system that avoids international financial networks, with the Bank of Kunlun operating as a conduit for China-Iran trade. China views Iran as a partner in balancing U.S. influence in the Middle East and as a supplier of discounted energy. Iran depends on China for export revenue and diplomatic cover. The relationship is an asymmetric. Iran needs China far more than China needs Iran. The formal foundation of the relationship is a 25-year comprehensive strategic partnership agreement signed in 2021 covering economic security and technological cooperation. China pledged up to $400 billion in investment over the life of the agreement, though little has been actualized due to Chinese companies' reluctance to risk sanctions exposure. China is Iran's largest trading partner and the primary buyer of its oil, purchasing roughly 90% of its Iran's export crude, often at a discount of $8 to $10 per barrel below the global benchmark. Cheap energy for what? Manufacturing. Was China supposed to be the manufacturing powerhouse when Europe went all green and the United States went all green? Absolutely. Were they getting cheap oil right now to keep the manufacturing cheap? Absolutely. Chinese customs authorities do not officially report these imports. Instead, they falsely attribute the oil's origin to Malaysia, Oman, and the UAE. Oil revenue from China accounts for roughly 45% of Iran's government budget. That revenue funds Iran's regional activities, including support for Hezbollah, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the Houthis, and other Iran-aligned militia groups. Iran's oil reaches China through a shadow fleet of aging tankers that obscure their activity by sailing under foreign flags, disabling tracking transponders, spoofing their GPS locations, and conducting ship-to-ship transfer at sea. The oil is then processed by a network of independent teapot refineries in China that operate largely outside the international financial system. So think about what China has been doing. And Iran and China, they've been aligned. And Iran really needs China because, again, they need the money coming in. Now, this has been cut off. Iran, their economic system, is falling apart, especially now that Trump has control over the Strait of Hormuz and Karg Island. And think about it. No oil going to Iran, no money coming to Iran. Iran doesn't have control of the Strait of Hormuz, no money coming in. The banking system has been shut down. They're not getting power. The leadership is decimated. It's a complete and utter disaster there. And this is why Trump is saying, listen, we have full control here. Yes, there might be some mines, maybe. There might be some drones that are left, maybe a missile here or there. But we need to show Iran that we are working together. We're strong. And we're going to make the ship sail through the Strait of Hormuz. But again, what has happened? Well, again, we know the EU announced it will not join the war to help the U.S. reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And we know that a lot of the countries are not going to move forward in helping Trump and helping the United States. But Steve Kerwin points this out, and it's very, very interesting. Russia hasn't attacked a NATO EU country, yet NATO EU expect U.S. support in Ukraine. Iran has attacked European bases in the Middle East and the hotel in Iraq housing the EU. Maybe it's time for the U.S. to reevaluate its support to NATO and the EU. Absolutely. Now, there is some talk, and OSINT Defender put this out, that the British government has drafted a plan for a coalition to secure shipping through the Strait of Hormuz and shared it with the United States and several other countries. Now, they're suggesting this. Are they actually going to do it? Probably not. I mean, they'll probably give a little bit of assistance saying that, look, we're helping. But when you look at this, it looks like they don't really want to get involved. The Last Refuge put this out and said, Germany has deactivated its nuclear reactors. Germany has decided not to purchase Russian oil gas. The German industrial economy is contracting. The German auto industry is collapsing. plants closing, mass layoffs. Into this self-created dynamic, Germany has become dependent on oil and gas from the Middle East and two, LNG from the U.S. Germany is a completely dependent state on the issue of energy. Yet, this is Germany's position. They're not going to participate. They're not going to help the U.S. President Trump previously pointed out that NATO would never come to the aid of the U.S. when the Greenland Arctic security debate was going on. The EU in general, and Germany specifically, is providing President Trump's point. As a result of international migration, Germany has over 5 million Muslim residents now residing inside the country. This overlay is part of their internal consideration. The tectonic plates are shifting, and we're bearing witness to old geopolitical structures collapsing as the ground beneath them moves. When history is written, it will reflect that President Trump didn't destroy NATO. He simply removed the mask. And that's absolutely true. So they do not want to assist in removing the deep state terrorist army because they use them to push narratives and their own agenda. So they don't want to help with Iran. Chaos allows them to make a lot of money. They control a choke point. China gets cheap energy to manufacture. This goes with their plan to shift everything to China while destroying the manufacturing in their own countries and instituting green energy policies. The flood of Muslims was not by accident. The leaders went along with this, and now the countries are overrun with Muslims, and it makes it hard for them to go against Iran and other countries or any Muslim country, because if they do, the Muslim armies in the country would take it out on them. They would create riots and chaos. These countries have weakened their armed forces because in the end, they were supposed to lose the war, World War III. So basically, the Muslims have already conquered these countries. That is what you're witnessing. Remember we talk about this in the United States. When you see the flag of a Muslim country being raised in a town or a city, that town or city has been conquered. Basically, these countries in Europe, they have been conquered by the Muslims. They do not make the decisions anymore. Think about that for a second. But it looks like the Indian Navy is going to deploy 2 task forces of warships to ensure the safe transit of merchant vessels and tankers carrying crude oil and gas to India through the Strait of Hormuz. So India is going to escort their ships. Very, very interesting. And Trump, it looks like he's going to be taking control of the Strait of Hormuz. And this is coming from OSINT Defender. According to an article from the Financial Times, 2 of the 3 Gulf-based littoral warships of the U.S. Navy have been sent to Malaysia for a logistics stop. 2 vessels in question, the Independence-class littoral combat ships, USS Tulsa and USS Santa Barbara, which are outfitted with minesweeping capabilities, made the move amidst the fears that Iran will continue to mine the strategic Strait of Hormuz. So minesweepers now are heading toward the Strait of Hormuz, which means they will assist ships in moving through the strait. Trumpy put this out and said, the United States has been informed by most of the NATO allies that, remember, most, not all, most of our NATO allies, that they don't want to get involved with our military operations against the terrorist regime of Iran in the Middle East. This is despite the fact that almost every country strongly agreed with what we are doing, and that Iran cannot in any way, shape, or form be allowed to have nuclear weapons. I am not surprised by their action, however, because I always consider NATO, where we spend hundreds of billions of dollars per year protecting these countries, to be a one-way street. We will protect them, but they will do nothing for us in particular in time of need. Fortunately, we have decimated Iran's military. Their navy is gone, their air force is gone, their anti-aircraft radar is gone, and perhaps most importantly, their leaders at virtually every level are gone, never to threaten us, our Middle Eastern allies, or the world again, because of the fact that we have had such military success. We no longer need or desire the NATO countries' assistance. We never did. Likewise, Japan, Australia, and South Korea. In fact, speaking as President of the United States of America, by far the most powerful country anywhere in the world, we do not need the help of anyone. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. And think about what Trump is doing right now. He's showing certain countries, look, this is a choke point. Look what happens if there's war. Look what happens if a rogue country controls this area. you are not going to get the gas, you're not going to get the oil. It's almost like COVID. During COVID, manufacturers realized, holy crap, we cannot be in one location. If everything's shut down, we're stuck. We can't deliver. We can't manufacture. So they started to decentralize. I do believe these countries are going to start to decentralize. And it looks like Trump now has planned this out, and he's showing these countries and exposing all of this. So they do what? They buy energy from the United States. Mary Nafal put this out and said, the U.S. has massive LNG, and it's the world's #1 exporter right now, surpassing Qatar and Australia. It could reach Asia in far less time than competitors, with total freedom of navigation, no choke points, no disruption. While Iran war shuts down Gulf supplies and spiked prices, Trump's energy dominance just locked in $50 billion plus in new Indo-Pacific deals this weekend in Tokyo. This shifts Asia away from the Middle East reliance. In 2026, energy dominance is the ultimate geopolitical weapon. And that's what this is all about. Taking the power away, removing the terrorist regimes, controlling the energy. Remember, Trump is setting up a parallel economic system. What is that made up? It's made up of tariffs, external revenue coming in. It's made up of energy sales. Drill, baby, drill, baby, drill. It's made up of selling the gold card. It's made up of AI technology sales. Trump is building a parallel economic system and removing the globalist system. And Trump, he let us know where we stand right now on Operation Epic Fury. Trump War Room put this out and says 7,000 plus targets struck, 90% drop in ballistic missiles launched by Iran, 95% reduction in drone attacks from Iran, 100% Iran naval vessels destroyed, missile drone production plants decimated, total dominance. Absolutely. And Trump, he put this out on Truth, where it says the U.S.-Israeli strategy against Iran is working, and here's why. When you look at what has actually happened to Iran's principal instruments of power, its ballistic missile arsenal, its nuclear infrastructure, its air defense, its navy, its proxy command architecture, the picture is not one of U.S. failure. It is one of systematic, phased degradation of a threat that previous administrations allowed to grow for 4 decades. The deep state created this. Iran's arsenal, built over decades, dismantled in days. Iran's naval assets, fast attack craft, midget submarines, and mine-laying capabilities are being liquidated. Its air defenses have been suppressed to the point at which the U.S. is now flying non-stealth B-1 bombers over Iranian airspace, a decision that signals near total confidence in air dominance. The campaign has moved through 2 distinct phases. The first, suppressed air defense. Iran's air defenses decapitated its command and control and degraded its missiles and drone launch infrastructure. By March 2nd, U.S. Central Command announced local air superiority over Western Iran and Tehran, achieved without confirmed loss of a single American or Israeli combat aircraft. The second phase, now underway, targets Iran's defense industrial base, missile production facilities, dual-use research centers, and the underground complexes where remaining stockpiles are stored. This is not aimless bombing. It is a methodical campaign to ensure that what has been destroyed cannot be rebuilt. Iran now faces a strategic dilemma that tightens every day. If it fires its remaining missiles, it exposes launchers that are promptly destroyed. If it conserves them, it forfeits the ability to impose costs of the war. Missile and drone launch data suggest Iran is rationing its remaining capacity for politically timed salvos rather than sustaining operational tempo. This is a force managing decline, not projecting strength. The nuclear threshold that previous U.S. presidents accepted is now gone. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz is dominating the critical commentary. U.S. Senator Chris Murphy has called it evidence that President Trump misjudged Iran's capacity to retaliate. CNN has described it as proof that the administration has lost control of the war's escalation. The economic pain is real. Oil prices have surged. A record 400 million barrels of oil will be released from global reserves, and Gulf states are facing drone and missile strikes on their energy infrastructure. But this framing inverts the strategic logic. Closing the strait was always Iran's most visible retaliatory card, and always a wasting asset. About 90% of Iran's oil exports pass through Karg Island and then the Strait. China, Tehran's largest remaining economic partner, cannot receive Iranian crude while the strait is shut. Every day the blockade continues, Iran severs its own economic lifeline and alienates the one major power that has consistently shielded it at the United Nations. The closure does not just hurt the global economy, it accelerates Iran's isolation. The naval asset Iran needs to sustain the blockade, fast attack boats, drones, mines, shore-based anti-ship missiles, are being degraded daily. Its naval bases at Bandar Abbas and Shabahara have been severely damaged. The question is not whether the strait reopens, but when and whether Iran retains any naval capacity to contest it. Critics compare the challenge of escorting 100 tankers daily to an impossible logistic burden. But you do not need to escort tankers through a strait if the adversary no longer has the means to threaten them. This is the operational trajectory, and that is what we're seeing right now. And think about what Trump has done with Ukraine and the EU leaders and everyone else. Well, since they said Iran is not their war, even though the United States is a NATO country, well, Ukraine is not the United States war. Ukraine's not even a NATO country. They're not even part of the EU. David Z put this out and said, Trump says, bye-bye, Ukraine. You're on your own. Trump, the U.S. is not obligated to help Ukraine. Biden was outmaneuvered. We are working with them, Europe, or on Ukraine. Ukraine is thousands of miles away, separated by a vast ocean. We don't have to do this, but we did it. Biden did it. I have to be honest with you. Biden was completely outmaneuvered. But we worked with them on Ukraine. We don't need to work with them on Ukraine. So think about what he set up here. And think about what he's doing in Venezuela, throughout the Americas, in the Middle East, and eventually Ukraine. He's basically reorganizing everything. Clandestine says, hear me out. Trump called out Germany, South Korea, and Japan for not willing to help with the Strait of Hormuz. What do these nations have in common? They are where we have the largest standing military presence outside the U.S. I think Trump is not just setting up a withdrawal from NATO. I think he's setting up a withdrawal from our military presence around the globe and will eventually begin the process of consolidating U.S. military presence to the Western Hemisphere. Once we are done with Iran and the war in Ukraine is over, I think the end goal is normalized relations with Russia and China, and thus the permanent end to the Cold War that never really ended. This is only possible by removing U.S. military presence off of China and Russia's doorstep, as well as ending Russia and China's meddling in our hemisphere via places like Venezuela and Cuba, which is already happening. What if the U.S., Russia, and China just agreed to stop the espionage, weapons, and mass destruction of proxy wars and meddling in each other's regions? What if these superpowers were on the same side instead of against each other? It's possible, and things seems to be inching in that direction. Russia and China are losing their influence in the Western Hemisphere, and Trump is posturing like he's going to remove our presence in the Eastern Hemisphere. I think we are witnessing a restructure of the global order and the global alliances as we know them. They're about to shift dramatically, and they are. And I do believe that Putin and Xi, they're on board, because if they weren't, everything that happened with Venezuela, everything that's happening with Iran, would not be happening. Cynical Publi has put this out and said, we are in a period of historic global realignment. In 20 to 30 years, it's quite possible that the global order will look like this. The USA's closest allies will be Eastern Europe, Latin and South America, Japan, Israel, Iran, India, and the Gulf Arab states. Reapproachment between the USA, Russia, and China will have been achieved. Not allies per se, but not a threat to each other. Plus, I do believe they will be doing business. We will have trade with these countries. The countries that will be the USA's biggest adversaries will be the Islamicized Western European nations. NATO will have dissolved. Also, it will be in a non-hot war of ideas with Australia and New Zealand. Countries are going to fall in line because the people of these countries are going to force it. Because again, the countries follow what the U.S. is doing. We are the light around the world. They look to the United States. And think about it. Trump has also set up the shield of Americas for the Western Hemisphere. All these countries now are going to come in line. And you can see that Trump now is basically ripping apart the old guard. It's falling apart rapidly. He's playing the chess game of his life right now, and he's winning every step of the way. And every step of the way, yes, the deep state players are going to try to stop him. And it looks like a federal judge decided they're going to temporarily block Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr.'s changes to the childhood vaccine schedule. And this is U.S. District Judge Brian Murphy, a Biden appointee. Todd Blanche says, how many times can Judge Murphy get reversed in 1 year? The same day he stayed for repeatedly refusing to follow the law, he issues another activist decision. We'll keep appealing these lawless decisions and we'll keep winning. The question is, how much embarrassment can this judge take? Absolutely. But you have to remember, this is about delaying. That's really what they're doing. And they're going to keep pushing this because, again, they're going to try to delay everything that Trump is trying to do and his team is trying to do as we approach the midterms. Once the midterms happens, they're done for. They're going to lose no matter what. One way or another, they're going to lose. But it looks like they're continually losing on the fraud case because Nick Shirley is he went to Minnesota, now he's in California, and now he's exposing the fraud there. This is what he put out. Here is the full 40 minutes of my crew, and I exposed California fraud. Minnesota was a big cut. California is even bigger. We uncovered $170 million in fraud as these fraudsters live in luxury with no consequences. Like it and share it. Basically, you could see that these people, they've been committing fraud against the people of this country. And once again, he's exposing all of it. And you could see that the governor's press office, they put out a picture of Nick Shirley has cameras all over him. It looks like Edward Scissorhands says, and he looks creepy. He says, hey, can I see your kids? And basically, they're trying to convince everyone that Nick Shirley is like a pedophile. He's evil, but that's not what he's doing. Again, they don't even have kids there. So he doesn't want to see the kids. He wants to see the actual daycare. Is it operational? Is it real? Green Beret Nap Time put this out and said, this is a perfect example of state-run propaganda, ladies and gentlemen. Here you have an official press office for the governor of the largest state in our union pushing a defamation campaign against an independent journalist. What terrible thing did that journalist do? Oh, he exposed hundreds of millions of dollars in welfare in all but fully Democrat-run states. California is an actual fully Democrat-run state. So they're absolutely terrified of independent journalists that aren't on their side coming in and spoiling all of their fun. I mean, what if someone actually looks into all the NGOs fraud in California? Like, where did that $37 billion go that old Gavin threw at homelessness since 2019, only for homelessness in this state to increase by 24%? So basically, Nick Shirley's exposing all of this. And you can see they're panicking right now. Nick Shirley responded to this and said, disgusting act by them to do this. The more I think about it, really is just vile and disgusting. A small percentage of their base will see this and then think I'm evil and eventually want to kill me because of propaganda created from the governor of California's office. And that is why they did it. They want the people to come out of their out of the woodwork, and they want those people to attack him. So this way he leaves or he gets killed. That is why they're doing it right now. And once again, you can see Newsom, he is panicked. Walt is panicked. They all should be panicking. And because this is not just happening in these two states, it's happening across the country. I mean, for example, C3 explains, age 65 plus population in California, 6.3 million. Age 65 plus population in Florida, 4.9 million. Medicare certified hospice orgs in California, 2,279. Medicare certified hospice orgs in Florida, 208. Less than 2 times the 65 population and over 10 times the orgs. Insane fraud. And that's exactly true. And Trump let us know that Waltz, Ilhan Omar, Keith Ellison are complicit in the fraud in Minnesota. Clint Essen put this out and says he also hints that we, the public, are going to find out about it soon and that we will have to do what we have to do. Sounds like justice is coming to me. And yes, justice is coming to all of these people. And what's very interesting is that Steve Miller said, what we found since Trump took office is that Democrats have set up a system to funnel hundreds of billions of and ultimately trillions of dollars to migrants that are in our country. Yes, that is the money laundering system. And think about it. Where does the money go? Do you think it just goes to illegals? Or we're going to find out it goes to Indivisible, it goes to Soros, it goes to Antifa, it goes to their operation. And Eric Schmidt says, after the Save America Act, we must pass the Scam Act so we can denaturalize and deport those who are here to hurt Americans. We must denaturalize those who shouldn't be here. To denaturalize someone, you have to show that they kind of lied on their application. They lied coming in here. Just because they committed a crime doesn't mean they're denaturalized. And you have to show that, hey, these people, when they came in, they were criminals. They truly were against the United States. You have to show that they lied on their forms. But let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. And Trump, and Rapid Response 47 put this out, signed the executive order establishing a VP-led task force to root out fraud. So now Vice President Vance is going to be looking into the fraud across the country, which is actually how the deep state funds their operation. And again, their system is made up of many different parts. Money, which we're seeing right now. J.D. Vance is going to expose this and basically bring these people to justice. Number 2, Epstein. These people are blackmailed and they have things on these people. 3, you could see they set up different choke points in certain areas around the world to create the terrorist organization, cartels, gang members, Hamas, Hezbollah, to maintain control and keep people in fear. Remember, the deep state players, they don't have a flag. So their army, they are the terrorists. And they use the terrorists. They figured out a way, hey, how can we keep people in line? How can we remove the rights of the people? How can we keep people in fear to push our agenda? I know, let's create a terrorist army. Let's use them. And they're not really part of any country. We don't have to control the country. We don't have to say they're from a country. We can just use them across the world. We can use the cartels. We can use the gangs. We can create them out in the Middle East. And we can continually push fear across the globe. Trump now is going after the deep state army. Think about that for a second. Think about what is happening. And every step of the way, what is FBI Director Kash Patel doing? He is continually going after the criminals. He has now revamped the entire system, and the system now works for the people. And he put up a post on X and it says, FBI adds 3 suspects to 10 most wanted list after 7 arrests under Trump administration. So the FBI, they just added more people to the most wanted list. He's continually arresting them and he's adding more to them. Remember, under the previous administrations, they didn't capture any of them on the 10 most wanted list. So again, Kash is doing the heavy lifting here. And we could see that today they started the debate about the Save America Act. And we know the D's are not going to vote for this. Chuck Schumer put this out and said, not a single Senate Democrat will support the Save Act. Not this week, not next week, not ever. We'll oppose it on the floor as long as it takes, which means they're treasonous to this country. And this should tell you everything you need to know. Now, what's very interesting is they're opposing this. And what's very interesting is because the news, and Just the News put this out, U.S. intel holds secret evidence China accessed American voter registration files as Senate weighs new election security law. So now we're getting info, and I think Tulsi Gabbard is going to be testifying very, very soon. And she could be testifying that the elections were rigged, there was foreign interference, and here we have the Save America Act being voted on at the same exact time, and the Democrats are completely and utterly against it. And once again, you don't have to change the rules to have a talking filibuster. Mike Lee says for the 1,000th time, a talking filibuster requires no changes in the Senate rules. Absolutely. Trump, he put this out and says the Save America Act is one of the most important and consequential pieces of legislation in the history of Congress and America itself. No more rigged elections, voter ID, proof of citizenship, no rigged mail-in voting. We are the only country in the world that allows this. No men in women's sports, no transgender mutilization of our children. 90% to 99% issues all. Only sick, demented, or deranged people in the House and Senate could vote against the Save America Act. If they do, each one of these points separately will be used against the user in her political campaign for office. A guaranteed loss. Get your senators, Republican or Democrat, to vote yes on the Save America Act. I will never, ever endorse anyone who votes against the Save America Act. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. So basically, he just put these people on notice. You decide to go against it. Of course, the D's don't care about this. He's talking about the rhinos. If you decide to go against this, you will not be endorsed. You will lose in the election. Period. The end. Because think about it. The people of this country, what do they want? They want voter ID. They want citizens of America to vote in the elections. What does the deep state players, what do the D's want? What do the rhinos want? They want to cheat. Period. The end. That's what they're telling everyone, which means they are treasonous to this country. And think about what they did in 2020. They overthrew the United States government. They overthrew the duly elected president, and then they had an insurrection against a sitting president, which was President Trump. They are treasonous to this country. And Trump let everyone know that he's playing the chess game of his life. It's a very high-level chess game. Take a listen to what he said here.
I think, I said it this morning, I think it's a very small price to pay. And frankly, I thought it was going to go down much more, if you want to know the truth. I assumed that it was going to go down much more, only because people don't understand to a large, it's a big chess game at a very high level. It's a very high level chess, the highest. And I'm dealing with very smart players. These are smart people. They don't get there. You know, when you deal with some of these people, you're dealing with high level intellect, very high IQ people. These are not Jasmine Crockett and her group. These are smart people. These are really smart people, and violent people, and vicious people, and some very nice people. And some are very nice but violent. They turn violent. But you know what? If I didn't do what I did, we would have been hit. Number one, very important, was the termination of Obama's horrible deal. And number two, this beautiful plane hitting them 8 months ago, whatever it was, and taking out their nuclear capacity. That totally threw them for a loop. If they had that bomb at either time, 5 years ago or 7 months ago, if they had that bomb would have been used almost immediately.
And this reminds me of Post 4281, May 19, 2020. How about a nice game of chess? Objective N, checkmate king. Do you attack the king at the beginning of the game? Do you attack and remove the pawns first? Do you attack or remove bishops, rooks, knights next? Do you attack or remove queen mid to end? Is the game being played public or private? Do emotions affect critical thinking? Add important king control pieces. Eliminate rogue elements. Add how do you set the stage, board, public opinion, optics at this time. So let's go through this a little bit and let's put together what Trump has done so far into what he's done in the great game of chess. Objective N, checkmate king. In chess, the game ends only when the opposing king cannot escape. Here, that ultimate king is full strategic dominance, neutralize threats to the U.S. security, economy, and sovereignty, Iranian regime capabilities, adversarial networks, domestic institutional resistance. Trump doesn't declare checkmate prematurely. He positions for the inevitable win. Do you attack the king at the beginning of the game? No. Standard chess principle. The king stays protected behind pawns and castled early. Direct king hunts in the opening, lose games. You develop control the center, and only later launch coordinated attacks. Trump's quoted acknowledged this. He's dealing with very smart players at the highest level, not rushing. First term laid the foundation positioning. Now in 2026, he's in the middle of the game. Not day one, all-out strikes on final target. Do you attack and remove pawns first? Pawns are the front line, cheapest to trade, and they control space, structure. Remove or advance them to open lines. Trump's early second term moves: domestic deregulation, EOs, fraud, waste task force, made in America, and border enforcement. Clearly low-level obstacles and pawns. Bureaucratic waste, minor threats. Globally, initial tariffs on Venezuela oil importers. Peripheral sanctions. These open files for bigger operations without opposing the king. U.S. homeland economy. Do you attack and remove bishops, rooks, knights next? Minor and major pieces in sequence. Knights, agile, tricky jumps. Bishops, diagonal influence. Rooks, straight power on open files. Target ops against mid-level networks and enablers. Venezuela regime, decapitation. Maduro, capture. Strikes on Iranian proxies, mid-tier military intel assets. Domestic rogue elements. Elimination via Doge-style reforms and agency purges. Knights equals special ops and agile diplomacy. Rooks equals institutional power. Bureaucracies, alliances. Bishops equal ideological influence networks. Do you attack or remove queen mid to end? The queen is the most powerful single piece. She comes out later, coordinates the final assault. Mid-2026 timing. Major power centers. Iran supreme leader. Security chief elimination. Recent joint U.S.-Israel actions. Strait of Hormuz pressure campaign. Tariffs, coalition demands. The queen equivalents, top regimes, key financial military levers are being isolated now. After pawns and minor pieces cleared the way, endgame approaches. When these fall in pawn promotion, new leverage leads to checkmate. Important king control pieces eliminate rogue elements. Your own king. U.S. position must be secured first. Castling equals strong economy, loyal base, military control. Trump domestic EOs. Energy, nuclear revival, AI framework, housing affordability, manufacturing investment, and fraud task forces equal fortifying the king while eliminating internal rogue, disloyal elements, waste, deep state holdovers. Public statement, project unbreakable king safety. How do you set the stage board? RE public opinion optics. Chess strategies about controlling the whole board and peace coordination long before the final attack. Optics equals the visible board setup. Trump excels here. State of the Union messaging, timed speeches at this time, America First narrative, public pressure on allies. Every move is framed to shape perception. Strength inevitably wins. While private high-level deals, the very smart players, he references, happen off-board. The game is public for optics, private for execution. This is what Trump is playing right now. This is how he's taking back the country. And this also reminds me of Post 2450, November 7th. We're going to show you a new world. Those who are blind will soon see the light. A beautiful, brave new world lies ahead. We take this journey together, one step at a time. Where we go one, we go all. He's building the new world. He's going to show everyone the new world. And the people are going to see it. Those that are blind, they're going to see the light. And everything will become clear. Why? Because the Patriots are in control. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.